Hi, this is Ken and Michelle Bass.
And you're listening to the Resilient Parenting Podcast.
Well, welcome back to another thrilling episode of the Resilient Parenting Podcast.
Thrilling.
Okay. Informative.
Definitely.
And other I words.
I have to say, before he started and he hadn't pressed record, that would have been thrilling.
It was some of my best stuff coming out. It didn't get recorded.
It did sound really
Story
good.
of my life. But
that was really funny. You had such gusto, too.
Had. Again, story of my life. Okay, well, back with another episode and,
Yes.
and a little reminder about something some people may have forgotten about.
Yeah, so we have a Facebook group page, the Resilient Parenting Podcast, and you can go there and join. There's some questions just to make sure that you're actually a human. But that's where we will post the latest episode. We also share different resources that come up as we hear about them. So if you have some resources and nonprofits and things that would be beneficial to, the families that we're working with across the state of Idaho, make sure that you also join our Facebook page, so then you can send those to us and we will definitely share those. And then we have an Instagram page. I will be honest, I'm not as good about posting things on there, but definitely follow that as well, because we do post some things. And then the other thing is just a quick reminder to please, share the episodes, let your families and friends know about this free resource in the state of Idaho, because this is all done to just reach families that need the support.
Very good. Okay, this part is done, right? We're getting ready.
Are you in a hurry? Are we going somewhere?
To the next episode? I mean, we're getting ready to start the next segment, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, onward.
Oh, I knew it. I knew it. We are joined by Kayla Gaffney, licensed master social worker and also a guardian ad litem with the CASA of Southwest Idaho. And if you're not familiar with CASA or guardian ad litems, don't worry. We're going to explain all of that, but we're just so excited to have you join our podcast today. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and to talk about the foster care system and CASA.
Yeah, so before we get to that, do you want to share a little bit about what you do in your day job?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been working towards my clinical license. So I'm a licensed master social worker and working towards my clinical license doing therapy with children and families.
Nice. And if you're interested at all in working with Kayla, I will put the information in the show notes. So Ken and I know a little bit about the CASA program and guardian ad litems, but could you share a little bit about that with folks that maybe don't know?
Yes, absolutely. So CASA exists in every district in the country, and we are assigned to children in foster care. Every child under the age of 12 by statute has to have a CASA in the state of Idaho, and we serve alongside the Department of Health and Welfare, so they're caseworkers, to provide services to the child and ensure their interests are being met.
And just out of curiosity, if you're over 12?
So we have provisions that will allow us to be a CASA for children 13 to 17 if they have some kind of developmental disability or have experienced extreme abuse or neglect. So we do have children, it's just not a state statute to require it.
Okay, so CASA is an acronym, obviously, and
I looked it up.
can you tell us what CASA actually is, and it'll help explain what you do.
Yes, absolutely. So it stands for a court-appointed special advocate. And so it's a volunteer that's put on the case at the very beginning of the case. And our job is to get to know the child and anyone else involved. So parents, foster parents, doctors, therapists. And we collect information and then provide that information to the judge. We compile it to say what we believe the best interest of the child is. A really important piece of that is also it's the child's opinion. So forming that relationship with the child is really essential to forming our opinion to the judge, because we have to bond with that child for them to trust us with that really, really big truth, whether they feel comfortable with parents or foster parents, or if their needs are getting met.
And for transparency, I have experience in this realm as well. So when I was getting my bachelor's degree, my internship was actually at Family Advocates, and I was a guardian ad litem, and I had a few kiddos that I was their guardian ad litem. And so I know the amount of work that goes in really getting the facts and hearing from the kids and building that relationship. And I just know how important having that voice at the table is. And so I really appreciate what you do and for all of the volunteers. So to tell us more, but it looks like Ken has a question.
Yeah, because I actually asked Michelle this before we began talking. That term, guardian ad litem, I had heard it before, but since I'm not in that line of work or anything, then I totally forgot what it actually meant. What is a guardian ad litem?
In this context, it is our job to represent the child. So we're a voice of the child. It's also a legal term in other contexts. And it's a similar voice of the child, but different. For us, it's with a specific foster case, and we make recommendations to the judge.
Okay. So it's kind of a title.
It is their title, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Also known as GAL.
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 Gal. If you don't mind, I actually would love to share like a couple anecdotes about CASA day to day, because when I say we're collecting information about a child and reporting to a judge, that's really focused on the legal side of things. But I would say the most impactful parts of what I've done with CASA is my direct work with youth that weren't being reached in other ways. I have a
Absolutely.
really specific example of a juvenile who was in detention, and I was allowed access to him as a person on his case, as a legal representative. And I was able to visit him very closely and bring him books, and visited him for many, many hours in interview rooms in ways that other people couldn't access him. And so I just think that really speaks to the power of a CASA. Yes, it's legal representation in a foster care case. And also it's a really unique way to mentor youth in a way that we don't often have access to these youth that need us the most.
Very nice. And I know you had a couple of stories you wanted to share. I am curious about your connection with the birth family. Where the podcast is about supporting families. And I know that you and I offline talked a lot about the importance of that communication and connection. And I really liked your approach with birth families. So can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So along with the relationships with our kids, another really important piece of that, and that's part of collecting information, but it's also just about the piece of being close to families is coming at them with a strengths-based approach. I think, unfortunately, a lot of our department workers are overworked. And so to be able to come in as a volunteer with a trauma-informed perspective, giving parents the benefit of the doubt and truly working with them and finding what they're good at and finding ways to fill gaps for them, to find reunification whenever possible. I know I sent over an article to you, but I just really want to highlight first and foremost that kids do better when they have access to their biological families, period, end of story. Now,
Yep.
there are times that's not possible, but as a CASA, it's really, really powerful to come in and work with those families and try to create a world where that can be possible.
Absolutely. And the article that she mentioned, I will add to the show notes.
Mhm.
So you'll have access to that.
That one's specifically about adoption from birth, not specifically about foster children, but I think it'll remain the same, that biological ties just are better outcomes for children overall.
And we talked about how that, being there and being able to help build that relationship, however it looks, when it's safe to do so. You know, at the end of the day, when the kids turn 18, most, if not all, go back to their birth family. And so to be able to take that time to really be able to, you know, see, like you said, the strengths, be able to find ways to support the youth as they're figuring out all the different feelings they probably feeling, and then also supporting the family, just an important part, because eventually they're going to find each other again, and like you said, families and kids, they do better when they're together. And you know, if there are safety concerns, I'm sure there's different approaches and supports that could maybe even help with some of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had a note here. I wrote about this too, that children carry an enduring need to make sense of their connections to their heritage. And this is anecdotal. You know, I tried to find research on it, but I couldn't find much in the way of hard research. But Michelle, it's a truth. You know, it's a truth I know. Kids do go back to their bio families. I know kids who've been with their adopted families for 10 years, and they will go back. And so if there are true concerns with the bio family safety, then how are you spending those 10 years? Are you spending those 10 years rejecting the child's identity and sense of meaning, because that is inherent in them? Or are you preparing them by showing them what safe relationships look like, what boundaries look like, what you can do to protect yourself? How do you know what a safe person looks like? And that you do that through openness with a child, right? That is a safe relationship, accepting all parts of them, including the parts of them that are going to want to connect with their roots.
I may be asking a very redundant question, but knowing what you do with CASA and what a guardian ad litem does, and you were talking about you're basically with a company or with yourself, you're assigned to work with a child. Is that how it works? Or how does a family find out that they can talk to you, or how do you get involved with that? How do you get into the whole situation?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work for CASA of Southwest Idaho. I mentioned every district in Idaho has a CASA. I am third district. And so when a child enters foster care, they're appointed a case, right? They have a Department of Health and Welfare worker. Sometimes they work with organizations that help the youth outside of the Department of Health and Welfare. What's required is a CASA. Judge writes an order saying a CASA will be appointed to this child if they're under 12, or 12 and under.
And then after that, the parents will learn about, you know, who all has been assigned to the case, and the guardian ad litem will also be in charge of, you know, reaching out and connecting to people that are important to the child.
You can always call your local CASA chapter if you're involved in a foster care case and don't know who your CASA is. Your local CASA chapter would know that. And also you could contact your Department of Health and Welfare caseworker. They would have that information as well.
Any other questions?
No.
That's good. I mean, you're asking questions that, you know, folks that maybe that this is the first time hearing this.
I think we're referred to as lay people, right?
Some people listening may say, "Don't include me, Ken." I'm just saying.
I'm speaking for someone, I know.
There's a lay person out there.
Okay.
So I know there was I worked at Family Advocates. So, and that is located in Boise.
Mhm.
Still, yes?
Yes.
Okay. And then that's a different one than you're involved in, though.
Yes. I'm in,
Okay.
Our office is in Caldwell, but we
Okay.
serve Fruitland, Payette, a lot of different places out there.
Okay. So for someone who maybe is listening and going, "Oh, that sounds like something I might want to do," how do they get involved?
Absolutely. So I sent the link over for the National CASA. Again, every single district in this country has one. So there's a national website and you can find your district. I also dropped the link for my district, third district, and we are looking for volunteers. We actually have the highest number of foster care cases in all the districts in Idaho. So we are definitely looking for volunteers, and it's a really incredible way to reach youth and families in a unique way.
Is there like some kind of drill you have to go through to be a volunteer? Some kind of questioning?
It's like you're joining the military or
I know.
something. It's a drill.
I'm sure.
Go down give me 10.
Well, I'm sure somebody just can't walk up. Okay, I want to volunteer. Okay, go ahead. You have to have some kind of qualifications, right?
Absolutely, if you're dealing with children.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. You have to pass a background check, so you can't have any convictions on your record. And also you'll go through a training. So there's actually quite a bit of training to start. As you can imagine, there's court protocol and basic trauma-informed perspective to pick up on. So there is quite a few hours of training initially.
So I imagine that not everyone is happy, welcoming for a garden ad litem at times
Mhm.
because of the unique role that you play.
Yes.
And so what would you say to maybe those folks who maybe do have opinions?
So I tell my parents and foster parents this. I say that our program was founded by a judge who noticed that children's voices were not being accurately represented in cases. Let's face it, other parties have other roles. The department follows state law and regulation, and they have to follow that. Parents also have really unique positions they're advocating for. They want their kids back with good reason. And foster parents sometimes have a position they're defending if they have bad impressions of parents or the department. I've seen it go both ways. And so everyone has a bias they're working towards, which isn't bad. That's a necessary part of the case. But a guardian ad litem is appointed to the case to have a perspective that is supposed to be solely for the best interest of the child, not for the parents' benefit, not foster parents, not the department or the law. What would be best for this child in particular? And so, unfortunately, with how loose that is, we often come in with maybe a different opinion. But this contention is intentional. We don't ever want a child's needs to be met in a vacuum. We want team members alongside us to see where holes might be happening and to advocate and have a voice, especially with our younger children who maybe don't know what they're supposed to be feeling or looking for in a foster home or in their biological home.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense. And I remember seeing that firsthand as a garden ad litem.
Mhm.
Um,
Always what is best for the child. That's the number one rule
mhm.
in all aspects of life, probably.
Yeah. And then thinking about the family, can you shared a really sweet story about, the connection you made with one of the youth. Do you have any thoughts or experience from when you worked with families? Maybe even when the kids and the parents reunited?
Absolutely. I just had an experience actually. So I was with a case for probably a year and they got reunified after a lot of hard work. The foster parents were so supportive of that mom. She had had a lot of trauma and worked through it. And I made a great connection with the mom and the boys. And this year she reached out to me, even though I'm no longer her CASA, her case closed. But I always tell my families they can reach out to me, which is another unique part of CASA, that we can become a part of that child and family's community after the case closes. And so she reached out asking if I knew of any school supplies, and I was able to connect her to some and see the boys and see her thriving after everything.
Oh, I love that so
Mhm.
much. That gives me I got goosebumps.
Yeah,
What you're
yeah.
doing is really, really important. And as you said, this is a national program. So if you're listening from another state, definitely check it out. All the links will be in the show notes. And then, of course, across the state of Idaho, we would love to have folks join and volunteer and create even more of a community to wrap around families and children. I just love the whole idea of it. Do you have any last
Parting
last
words.
parting words? No pressure.
Yes, no, I thought about this. I was prepared, you guys.
I knew you would be.
I think that the most important thing that I could say to parents is to meet kids where they're at and love them for who they are. Kids are inherently good, and the more that we focus on that and build them up and point to what they are doing right and say, do more of that thing, the more likely they are to do that thing. And I think it really is as simple as that sometimes. And with our own stressors and anxieties, we kind of forget. It really is as simple as, hey, kid, you're doing a great job. Keep doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And and it sounds like you might have also said that to that mom too. Like with all her work. Right?
Absolutely. Yes, that's what I say to my bio parents and my foster parents too. I have a lot of foster parents that come to me with frustrations with good reason with this system, and it's, you know what? You're doing a really, really good thing. You're doing a really good job at the end of the day, and we all deserve credit for that.
Very nice.
Very nice. Well, thank you so much for what you do, and so happy to have you on. And well, maybe you'll come on again and talk about something different.
Awesome. Thank you
All
guys
right.
so much for doing this, and I hope
Thank you, Kayla.
yeah, I hope you guys have a good rest of your night.
Thank
You
you.
too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
This podcast is brought to you by the Idaho Children's Trust Fund.